Hi, today is September 27th of 2012. This is Lucky Smith, and I'm here with
Deborah Sutton, CEO for Court-Appointed Special Advocates, Children in Foster Care.
And I understand that you're in charge of CASA, correct?
I am, for Riverside County.
And what's going on? Because I'm hearing a lot of buzz and a lot of things that was going on. Like it used to be, you guys used to get funding from our government, right?
We did. We did get federal monies, but at this point, the government doesn't find it necessary to fund programs such as our program, which our program was developed by a judge who saw a need in court for an advocate to represent the child, to bring their voice to life, because these kids are moved 22 to 65 times while in foster care. If they're not abused before foster care, they're abused by the time they get out. The kids that we see have gone through the worst abuse you can imagine, because the judges make a court order for our advocates. So basically, because there's not enough money, they make the order for the worst of the worst child abuse cases. They're the cases that you don't always hear about, and then sometimes they're the cases you do hear about on the front of a newspaper.
And what made you, I want to backtrack real quick. How did you get involved with this organization?
Well, a friend of mine actually called me and told me to apply for the position I'm in. I had never heard of us, and I'm a therapist and used to work with actually parents of these kids, and would hear that they were in foster care and had no idea what that meant. I actually thought they were being taken care of in foster care. So anyway, I went to apply for the position. I did beat out 68 people, but we were in such financial struggles that it took a couple years to get the program back in the way it's supposed to be. And so now we're doing really well. But there's about 4,000 kids in foster care just in Riverside County. California, there's about 80,000 kids in foster care. And foster kids make up 58% of human trafficking victims, and that's a big number. And the reason for that is because nobody's really paying attention with these kids. They're viewed one of the most unwanted kids of society. We've really let them down, and so they end up homeless.
Well, let's backtrack this a little bit further, because a lot of the listeners who have never been abused are not going to understand. So let's break it down to where they can understand what lifestyle do these kids have before going to foster care, and what kind of system are they in? CASA takes them out of foster care, and this is their home, correct?
Oh, no. Actually, our name is very misleading, and It's actually, CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates.
Okay.
And so what happens is we train advocates from the community. They go through 30 hours of training, and then the judge comes in and swears them in as officers of the court, which is it's a pretty big deal. So we only answer to the judge, and we can call hearings, and we work on behalf of the judge, and we answer to him. But basically, a child is removed from the home, and they go in front of a judge. The judge decides where the placement's going to be, and at that point in time, if the child has gone through a horrendous amount of abuse, he will make
an example of a vague story without.
There's a story where there was a 2-year-old where the mom was allowing boyfriends to have sexual sex with her, and both legs were broke and arms were broke, and STDs throughout her body.
A 2-year-old.
And this and I say it kind of flat, but the amount of abuse that I see, my staff sees, and of course our advocates see, I'd like to tell you that this is an isolated situation, but the amount of abuse that happens in foster care or to these kids which brings them into foster care is not a good place to be. It's a very dark spot, but thank God for the advocates and the people who support child welfare programs, because right now that's where they always cut on the backs of the kids and the elderly and the handicapped. So,
and you guys were advocates for the children to make sure that they're not being abused in the foster care.
And well, we do everything. We make sure that if they need therapy, they get it. That we fight for sibling visitation. There's a lot of kids that do not end up with their siblings. So when you're removed from your home, you're removed from your identity. And so furthermore, when you split up siblings, foster care is not set up to be individualized. So whatever you used to eat at home, that's not what you're going to get in a placement. There's group homes, because group home kids, they end up there because maybe they have difficulty in a foster family setting. There's just so many things, and they're moved so often, and every time they're moved, they go 6 months behind education. So we have more homeless foster kids on the street now than the Vietnam vets.
It's true, because what it is that we remove them, we put them in the homes, and then when they're treated like crap, or
they're moved for any reason.
Or sometimes from my example, I'm not gonna go into all my history, but I was sent to LA, and I was sent to like live in not a very good part of LA where I was like, fuck this, I'd rather be homeless.
Hell yeah. I'm telling you, so would I.
Yeah.
It's no mystery why the kids run away. Guess where they go when they run away? Most kids try to go home. Regardless of how bad the situation is, they want to go home. That's what they...
And then what's fucked up is they go home and their parents still don't want them.
Right, exactly. And I just, actually, my CASA program for Riverside, we're the only CASA in California who's doing gay and lesbian transgender advocacy for kids in foster care, because they report 100% abuse while in foster care. And so we launched it out in Palm Springs, which I love Palm Springs, and I ended up moving there.
Yeah.
But the community for the LGBTQ community, which is gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual question, stepped up, and they've really taken on, you know, the issues, because when you're in foster care, they can move you if you're a foster kid and you say you're gay, and that doesn't work, you get a 7-day notice. Now, if you don't pay your rent or I don't pay my rent, I get 30 days of notice and all the legal rigmarole. You're a foster kid, you're 7-day notice and you're gone.
And you know what? They become adults who cannot have a healthy relationship because they're so afraid of being abandoned that they keep breaking up with everyone that even gets too close because they'd rather leave than be left.
That's right, that's right. And so they self-sabotage, you know, and so things are going along just fine. But an advocate spends, you know, 18 to 22 months on the case. They're not mentors, big brother, but no, we're different. We go in, we fight for the rights of these kids, we make sure they get the things that they need to be successful. We're the best kept secret, we're not new, but nobody's ever heard of us. For one, our name doesn't represent us well. But Dr. Phil's our national spokesperson, but CASA, the network, we're a national organization, and we've been doing this kind of work for a long time.
Do you have any fundraising? Is there anything that we can do to bring the federal funding back? I mean,
well, that's all in elections. That's your politicians. That's, you know, people that we elect into office. What are their, you know, what are their agendas, and what are they bringing to the table? Right now, I'm trying to get on commissions, boards, anything I can to bring a voice for the kids in foster care. One thing you hear when you hear foster kids, there's a lot of myths that they're bad kids, and people don't realize that these kids are victims of their parents' situations. Doesn't make that the parents are bad. Some are, but sometimes the kids are just.
The parents are doing to them what was done to them.
Absolutely.
And it's like, or sometimes with interracial marriages, racism comes up, and if you don't look black enough, or you don't look Mexican enough, or you don't look Asian enough, or white enough, those kids end up getting abused. They do. Yes. I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes the parents don't realize they're racist until after they're looking at their kid.
Right. And there's all kinds of reasons. The number one reason for kids to end up in foster care is general neglect. General neglect. And I was just at a meeting today. We were sitting there just kind of working through Riverside County numbers. But most of the kids, when we do send them home, more than half come back. I mean, it's just this revolving door for reunification. We got to do a better job working with the families. We do, because at the end of the, sometimes they can't go home. Sometimes they can't.
And sometimes
but if they can, we need to exhaust that, make sure, because sometimes they can go home.
Yeah, sometimes they can go home, but then there's sometimes where the parents are never going to change.
Right.
And it's just better to give those kids skills and ability to just move on their own and emancipate them.
Absolutely. And
I was better off being emancipated.
There's a new assembly bill, AB 12, that was passed and basically extends foster care 18 to 21 now. Kids can stay in foster care, and even if they leave at 18, they can come back. And they can get the services. So if they emancipate early, that's not a good deal always, because then they lose services, medical, all that stuff, housing. But now with the new assembly bill passing, that helps these kids, because nobody's ready at 18. Shit, I wasn't ready till, you know, who knows when I was ready. But people in general society do not realize, and I'm going to say this, the epidemic of what we're doing to these kids that are in placement, that are in foster care. And damn it, we need to do a fucking better job.
No, I agree.
And I apologize for cussing.
I cuss all day long in this. Yeah.
But I talk to politicians. I'll talk to anybody who will listen to me. I'll talk to. I don't care. I'll talk to anybody, because people don't know. They think that because they're wards of the court, that they're okay. It's not fair.
Because a lot of these kids come from divorced homes. So before they even end up in foster care, they probably went back and forth like a fucking tennis ball between mommy and daddy. Yeah. Mommy, daddy, grandma. Mommy, daddy, grandma, grandpa, uncle, sister.
Yes.
And then by the time you keep bouncing them, by the time they're 18, 17 years old, they don't even have a heart to love because they're afraid to love, because who's going to love them when nobody else wanted them?
Right, exactly. And so then you get into like self-mutilation behavior, drug addiction, early pregnancy,
From
STDs.
being promiscuous, just not giving a shit.
Yeah, and we people teach us how to, treat them. And so when a child is growing up in an environment where they're not wanted, where if they're anything outside the norm isn't accepted, what's going to happen? They're going to make themselves outcasts of society. They're going to put themselves in a situation where they're further away. And I've seen some awesome kids come through with the resilience of an amazing, you think some of the kids you see, they're going to college, they're driving a VW, whatever, and they're depressed. You see some of these foster kids excel, and they just shine. We had a kid, he was 9, his 5 siblings taken out of the home. He was the middle child. He was sexually abused. Nobody knew that. He was 9. 4 of them were adopted away. The new adopted mom did not want any contact to happen with the 9-year-old kid that was put to a group home because he couldn't handle the foster home because he had some behavioral issues. The social worker wanted to deem him unadoptable, and then the new adopted mom didn't want to have anything to do with him. They said he was below intelligence. Of course, you know what I'm going to say. We tested him again a year later. He's high as above average intelligence. And then the foster mom says, the new adopted mom says, well, you can write them a letter, but these aren't their names anymore. You need to call them this. And he didn't. He called them by what he knew their names to be, and she sees all communication. But I have to tell you that this kid, when I saw him, he was little and he was withdrawn, and one of my case supervisors saw him the other day, and he's 15 now, and he's standing straight, and his teeth he's smiling, and he's got a goal. And it's awesome, because I'll tell you what, if anybody has a reason to go fuck you, he does. And he didn't, and he just blew everybody away. So it's like, I know we just got to give him a shot. We got to give him a chance as we would anybody,
Where can people find you at? I mean,
well, of course, we have a website, a Facebook, CASA for Riverside County. We have a Facebook, and then our website is www.casaforriversidecounty.org. And then my cell, which I text, I'm a big texter, you can call me anytime, is 909-904-1861.
And also, do you have any upcoming events? If people want to get involved and donate, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Okay, any of the ways I just gave you.
Okay.
We have a golf tournament that's coming up. We're getting ready to do, but we're also looking for venues to do things like Richard does shows for us. We're looking at Fantasy Springs, doing a show out there, or just basically if anybody wants to donate anything or they want to be an advocate, and it doesn't have to be Riverside County, wherever you live. Just look on the website, check out our national cost, and if you're not moved to do something, then we're not the organization for you. But I'm going to tell you this, if any volunteer that wants to do the hardest but the best volunteership ever, costs us the place. But if you're coming to serve soup and feel good for that day, we're not the right spot, because you're going to hear things you never wish you'd heard. You're going to see things that you can't believe that humans can do, and the worst of the worst. But then you see this kid I was just telling you that's standing up saying, you know what, I'm not going to get taken down, And so CASA makes sure these kids don't fall through the cracks. And we're behind the judicial iron curtain of confidentiality. I can't bring Johnny to you so he can say, yes, CASA's great, because they're wards of the court, But so we have to be able to tell the story effectively and be able to kind of represent these kids in a kid manner, not bad kid manner. So any foster kid, any kid that's in need deserves, our help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for your time. And this is Lucky Smith signing off.